overall landscape. The lighting itself isn't bad. The shadows probably would be a little bit softer, but I'm assuming that it wasn't supposed to be like a final render because you have this chunk over here that you didn't hide. So just more of a visual reference. It is 10:18 here. I'm in Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, that's what I thought, Jeff. Yeah, it looks good. Overall shape looks pretty good. Details fine. But yeah, it's Mountain Standard Time here. So it's 10:19 here. So I'm a little bit ahead of you, or behind, I suppose. You're ahead of me. So what I want to do regarding Sauce Boss's question is I want to start these more at where a lot of people actually come and view my videos. So that's around 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe a little bit later. I don't want to go much later than 9 o'clock to start for these, but I want to keep it to Saturday or Sunday. Typically probably Saturday, and start around that time. But if you have a better time that will work for you, let me know. I'll try to make as much amends as I can, but I can't control time, obviously, or the sun, so I can only start when I can start. But if you want to watch these more in the PM for you, I can do the time conversion and see if it'll work for me, because I am a night owl. I can stay up all night because I work a afternoon and evening shift for work, so my sleep schedule isn't very basic. So yep, that's about it, Jeff. I did make a poll. I made a poll on my channel. I asked, let's see if I can find it. Let's see. So we got, where do they put them? Where do they put them? Community. So right here I asked to all my subscribers, I want to do a live stream once a week if possible, probably on a Saturday, since it's the easiest to work with. Easier for me. Time zone is Mountain Standard Time. If you're interested in watching a live stream on my channel where I just go over Gaea, Octane, other stuff, as well as just try and engage with you all, what would be the best time that you're interested in. So I did mornings, afternoon, evenings, or anytime, and pretty much everybody just said anytime. So I do want to try to keep it more in the evenings though, because I'm not a morning person at all. If I was a morning guy, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I think afternoons and evenings will probably be best because I'm just not a morning person, never have been. I'm a night owl through and through. All right. So yeah, I think we broke down that mountain pretty well. Anything else in here that anybody else wants to talk about? Anybody here that's on the Facebook channel that wants their stuff going over? There's a good example of the cartography. That one's really good. That's really nice, actually. So you can see how useful it can be for like making maps for like your games, things like that. And that's the landscape that he made for it. Looks like he's trying to build it out for a world in like a map for a book or our game or something. He probably talks about it in there about what he's doing. This one right here, that's a good example. This guy is really good. I think this is the same Massimo who was using Vue a long time ago. Oh, someone bought Cloud. Nice. Yay. It might be the same Massimo dude. I'm not entirely sure, but he makes really good landscapes. And if it is, I've known this guy for a long time. I don't know his last name, but I know a guy named Massimo or however you say it. He makes really good stuff. So he has these really cool mountains. And you can see how you don't need a lot of erosion when you're making landscapes to get good results. So he has this nice mountain here covered with snow, and he has his trees and this foreground object and this fog. Really nice. Really good looking HDRI with the sun peeking through right there. Always try to line up your sun and your HDRI and the sun object you have in your landscape or in your program. That way you don't get really unnatural lighting. I think the only thing I would change in this is I would enhance some of the contrast because these trees sticking out just a tad bit too much despite there being very little light. And I would probably add some snow erosion to these mountains so they follow some kind of path. Because right now it just kind of looks like somebody sneezed on it and it just went wherever. Other than that, though, it's not bad at all. I like this low underlying fog he has right here. That looks really good. Adds a nice little addition to it. But yeah, just maybe small changes to the mountain so there's more character to put snow where snow belongs and whatnot. But overall, it's really nice. I mean, people on this Facebook page are just amazing. They're just really good. You can learn a lot from these guys. Dax in general is just a good person to learn from, but there are tons of people that are just too smart for their own good. That's a work in progress. Got a lot of camera jitter. I mean, we can break that down, but I'm not going to. It's a work in progress. We'll wait to see how it looks in the end. We can look at one of these breakdowns of one of these objects I'm trying to sell. We can do that. That's not a bad idea. So I have these that I made recently, and they're just very basic base meshes. So let's do middle ground real quick. Yeah, I've been looking through ArtStation on what people have been doing with Gaea. Some people are just insane. They're just really good. Don't mean to like tilt my own bubble, but if you look in the About section, we've got a special shout out in it. A couple of us, some people that are more common to find on the Facebook page. These are all people who did like the initial testing for Gaea before it was even publicly released. It was still like alpha testing. All the people in here, if you ever see any of these guys commenting, excluding me, ignore everything that I post. Just joking. But anyways, if you see anything that these guys are posting, these guys will know what they're talking about. They are all super smart people. So this guy right here, I always call him Pratt because I'm pretty sure I'm saying his name wrong, but I call it Prattiak, but I just call him Pratt in my head or when I'm talking to him. This guy right here is insanely smart with World Machine as well as Gaea. So if you see his stuff, talk to him about it. He's really smart. Onyx Lee's a really good guy. I'm friends with him in person. He's a really smart dude as well. Ola, I call him Ola. Sometimes I call him Haldor because of Holdor from Game of Thrones. This is how I remember people. His whole name, Ola Haldor Solvik Vol. This guy's really smart, really nice guy. Super humble as well. Adam Garland, everybody in there. Just, you can't go wrong with them. Let's see, did it load? It did. So this is a landscape that I recently built. That doesn't look natural, and then see a photo that looks just like the render. Yeah, I've actually done that, Bob. I did a test actually. So somebody made a render based on a photograph, and they asked me which one was the photograph and which one was the render, and I started like poking things out from the from what I thought was the render. I was like, that doesn't look natural. Like the lighting's kind of weird and skew-wumpus here. Like the shadows being casted are just way too sharp. It looks like they're too dark. And then they're like, actually, this was the render, and they showed me the entire breakdown of it, and it looked like object for object, texture for texture was exactly the same as the photo. And I was like, wow, that was pretty good. That just, for some reason, I just didn't think that nature would have really sharp shadows like that. But I guess I didn't know the scale and the distance away from the object that they had. And yeah, I was bamboozled. But they're like, no, you did. Those were some very basic artist critiques that they had on it from other people who took the test. And you're not wrong. Normally, that's not something that you would go for. But like those really sharp shadows or really dark shadows, but it could have also just been some weird thing that was because of the camera and the camera lens they had, or they probably did some editing in Photoshop or something to increase the contrast or whatever. But Yeah, definitely bamboozled. So this is a landscape that I made. I actually don't have this one up for sale just yet because I'm working on it. But this is what I'm making. And essentially it's just these this open area. I envisioned this as more of like a play area in a video game, I suppose, where we have like this open middle ground with some height variation, and you would play like in these crevices over here you can run around in, kind of like an open map that you would use for like a FPS shooter map or something, but large. So you have some height variation that people can get on, shoot down into, and all that fun stuff. And this is how I made it. And I always have said from the beginning that people take the gradient primitive for granted, because it's just a very basic thing. So if you look at the gradient here, I always find it faster to just type it in. It's just a very basic slope. And why would you want to use this when you have slope noise? But I right here have a example of why you would use it. So you have multifractal. That's what I'm using here. Is the multifractal on both sides. So all I did is I copied what I did on the top to the bottom. I don't know why I have that up right there. That should be down because it's bothering me. All right. All I did was copy the top and the bottom, and just changed the seeds a bit. On most nodes, anyways, I changed the seeds a bit. And this is what we ended up getting. And then I threw stacks on. I think stacks is probably just the best next thing that ever happened to Gaea. It's really easy erosion that doesn't break up your terracing too much. And then I threw those into a gradient. And then I used a transform here to rotate it 180 degrees. So this one appears on the other side, and then I just combined it using the screen method and ratio set to 100. So now we have these two sides that are breaking things apart. Yeah. Stacks is OP and needs to be nerfed. Oh man, but why do we have to call for nerfs so soon? Why can't we just increase all the other nodes' capacities? It's like I played a lot of Destiny back when it came out, and they had like the Taken King come out. I played a lot of that. I actually like Destiny. I don't think if you bought vanilla Destiny, you're getting your money's worth, but I waited till the Taken King came out, and I thought I was getting a $60 worth, because at that point they had 3 other expansions come out, and I thought it was $60 worth at that point. So I bought it, and it was great. I liked the storyline. When playing it from start to end, I thought it was, if you didn't have any breaks in there like you did with the vanilla one, then you weren't as jaded. But people were always calling for nerfs the guns, and I was just like, why are we nerfing all these guns? Why don't we just not nerf the other guns and instead buff them? But everybody just called for nerfs. So every gun in the game was nerfed into oblivion, and then it became not fun to play anymore. Yeah, I would much rather things be buffed than things get nerfed. But yeah, anyways, this is the base. This is me using the actual different graph node options as well. So this is a good breakdown of what you can do with it. So this is the basic base terrain, and this is what we ended up with. And then next was the erosion, and this one I just eroded the whole terrain, but I was more selective on the height. Yeah, exactly. So if that feels exactly where it needs to be, then just increase the other guns' abilities, like buff the other guns. I'm playing Modern Warfare right now, the new 2019 version, and they just recently nerfed a shotgun. I think it was the over-under shotgun. I can't remember what it's called. And it's like, well, you didn't need to nerf that. You just needed to increase the range and damage range of the other shotguns, and it would have been fine. And you could have just increased them a very little bit amount. But gotta join in the fun. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Join in. I know this is a longer stream, but I'm enjoying your guys' comments and the talk. The 728. I don't know. I have to get in and look at it. I plan on playing later tonight when the stream's done, but I'm not good at all, but I think it's a fun game. So anyways, we got the erosion here. So we're using breaker. Like I said, breaker's a good one to use just in general. and I'm just using my basic settings, just hard cracks and accurate. I don't increase it too much. And then erosion to fill in the breaker options, but then I mask in the height of it here using this, and then the thermal, and it's going to build it out because I'm doing it at 2K, so it's going to take a minute. But in the end, we ended up with this, and I'll show you what it looks like with everything else and how I set up these different graph nodes. But yeah, the over-under shotgun in Modern Warfare is a very good shotgun. Like, you can, it just has phenomenal range, but it lacks obviously in capacity, so you only get 2 shots before you have to reload, and the reload time takes a little bit of time. So I mean, it has its negatives for sure, but that doesn't mean you have to nerf its total range and overall playability. You just buff the other guns to make them more competitive. But I'm not a game developer, and I'm not sure what goes through game developers' heads when they decide that stuff, but I mean, they have to have their reasons, obviously. While that's building out, hopefully I can show you these. So this is the lower color graph. Yeah, you enjoy getting headshotted by it in the gulag. So you play Warzone. I actually haven't spent a whole lot of time in Warzone. But yeah, you can definitely get... Yeah, they do have a long range in real life, and that's why I think it's ridiculous that when you get a shotgun in a video game, it has like no range, because shotguns have really, especially if you're using like something like buckshot, oh my goodness, you might not hit somebody and do massive damage to them, assuming that you were doing this in real life for whatever reason, self-defense or whatever. You might not do massive damage to them at longer ranges, but you'll still pepper them is the thing, and that's enough to deter somebody from doing something. But they do have surprisingly good range in real life. If you want to look at like a shotgun that had pretty decent real life range in a video game, was the original Halo Combat Evolved shotgun on the Xbox, not the remake. That thing had ridiculous range. If you got the shotgun, it was like the sword in Halo 2. If you got the shotgun, you just owned the entire map. Yeah, Halo C is really good. It's one of my all-time favorite games. Yeah, it can definitely be frustrating if you are using a shotgun and you have something like the M13 or the M4A1 or something, and you just get blasted by that shotgun 50 feet away and it kills you instantly. I can see how that gets frustrating, but if you're using the assault rifles in Modern Warfare, you should probably be playing further like mid to far ranges with them anyways, unless you're using the M13. That's more of a close to mid-range gun. Yeah, Theodore, sorry, we kind of went on a tangent and started talking about other things, but thank you for joining in. I really appreciate it. I hope you come to the next one. I know it's late there. It's getting late here too, but I appreciate you joining. If you have any other questions later on that you want me to go through, or anything like that, you can feel free to comment on the video or post to my channel or ask on Facebook if you have it, and I'll get to you. Thank you for joining, man. All right, I think it's done building, at least that part. Let's see. It's taking a long time to build because I have a lot of nodes here, and this is why it's really important to keep your nodes down. You don't want to be using a crap ton of nodes if you can get away with it. So all those are built. All of those are built. And I think it's finally getting to the color here. So we're doing the lower color. Heck yeah, Theodore. If you make something, share it. We'd love to see what you make, dude. If you want. No, you don't have to, but definitely down to seeing what you create. Really excited to show this to you guys because there's a lot of flaws in it right now because it's still being made, but there are a lot of flaws in it that will actually help you guys because it's stuff that I want to implement as well. Just so we can fix it all up. So that was the lower color. That was the part that's coloring this area down here. And then the upper color is just coloring the top parts. And then we did like a worn rock look, which I think is really, really important to look at. I wanna start getting into more Warzone and Modern Warfare. Uh, Currently, I'm just trying to get the Season 3 Battle Pass leveled up all the way first, because I suck at Warzone. I've always sucked at those big, whatever they're called, battle royale type games. I tried playing PUBG, did really bad at it. I never really was interested in Fortnite. Fortnite has a very toxic crowd. I just don't like playing with a lot of toxic people. I like enjoying my video games and not having a lot of toxicity. So yeah, man. I mean, I'm always down. I play mostly every other day, but on the weekends I try to play. I try to spend as much time as I can now that I'm working from home with my family. But since my um, schedule's so weird, I sleep and then I wake up, and by that point, people are getting ready for bed. So that's why I took this time off, so I can actually do it. But this first day time off, first night time off, I'm not doing so well. I still slept to my regular schedule. I don't know why, because I went to bed really early last night, considering when I usually go to bed. I was so tired. I stayed up for 24 hours just so I can get my sleep schedule back on track, and I still failed at it. Yeah, I didn't really like the whole building thing with Fortnite either. Just spent all that time getting stuff created and it would just get destroyed almost immediately. That's why I kind of went more towards PUBG, because it was just you got down onto the ground and you just ran, collected your stuff, and you just played. You didn't have to worry about any micro managing other things. So yeah, it's probably better anyway. Gaming is a nice, like, you've been working all day, you just want to come home and relax. That's how I see gaming. But definitely, if you have the time, you should be, in my opinion, should be spending it doing something else. Like, I've been doing a lot of extra studying for my flying. Like, I got my FAR aims. I'm studying some test prepping, and just trying to get back into the swing of things, because I kind of went stale on it for a minute. I think that time is better spent learning something new, especially since you have to work from home in some cases. Like, if your work is making you work from home, you ought to be spending that time learning something, I guess. All right, that's been built. Now this is building. There's just a lot of nodes here. So, but at least we got the upper and lower color done. So this is the lower color. You can see how the upper parts of the terrain haven't been colored yet. It's just this lower part. So we put in some additional small details just to kind of break it up and add some stuff to it. You can see, like, this is the taluses from the thermal weathering. I just increased the debris size a bit and then put in a the surface node, which I guess I can show you what that looks like now. So this will be without the surface node, if it'll go through. Yeah, Flight Sim 2020 looks awesome. I've been using X-Plane as a flight simulator just to stay up to snuff on some, your basic flying stuff that I can't do because for some reason I can't fly in person until all this stuff blows over. But Flight Sim 2020 it looks phenomenal. I'm actually quite excited for it. And the last flight simulator that I really got interested in was X-Plane 10, and now X-Plane 12 is about to come out. So I have X-Plane 11. It's pretty good. But I'll probably be replacing it with 2020. As long as I have the plane that I actually fly in person, which is the Czech Sport Cruiser. Those are like, if you're trying to compare it to a car, they're not super expensive, but they're only a 2-seat plane, so you can think of it as like a coupe. You can probably think of it as like the Porsche of the plane industry, but they actually cost less than a Porsche. So they're really inexpensive planes, and they're inexpensive to fly, which is why I'm able to afford flight lessons. Other than actually just working my butt off for it too. So But yeah, if you want to look up what they look like, you can see what I fly. The Czech sport cruiser. It's like the Czech Republic. So, was it CZ or some other weird spelling? I cannot remember for the life of me. Czech sport cruiser. Yeah, CZECH. And this is what I fly. My plane looks almost exactly like this, except it has blue instead of red. Yeah, that's coming out of the manufacturer, 119,000 from the manufacturer. But my flight school, so a lot of people use 172s, Skyhawk 172s as like student planes. But my flight school uses all sport cruisers. They actually got rid of all of their, except for one of them, because they have a flight instructor who weighs too much to actually sit in the seats of these planes because they have a seat weight that you can't exceed. And it's 200 pounds, and the guy's like 300 and something pounds. So they had to keep one Skyhawk to use so he can fly and teach in it. But they replaced all of them except for one, and they replaced them with these, so they got a huge discount. So 119,000 might be from like the manufacturer, but I think my flight school was able to get all their planes for about 68,000 a piece. So they got a pretty good discount from them, or discount on them. And where I fly out of is it's actually, they changed their name, but they used to be called Bountiful Flight. And we've done this where we've landed out on the salt flats. This is actually out by Wendover. You can fly out here and land where the lake has been dried up forever. You can land on it. So we've done that for like soft surface landing practice. This image right here, that's the guy who owns the company, and that's the flight instructor I started with, and this is about where I fly out of. So they're a little further away from the airport, but this is what I see when I get up and fly. It's really nice, and they are fun aircrafts. They're really light, so when there's turbulence, that is not very fun. When there's turbulence, you feel all of it, and that's the major downside to such a small light plane. But other than that, they're really nice to fly. This is out of UVU. I think these are Diamonds. I think these are DA-20s or DA-40s or something like that. Or Scimitars? One of the two. I can't remember. That's out of Utah Valley University. That's where I started before when I was going to college. This is where I started. And those are, I would have flown those, but I actually didn't get that far because it cost too much money. And I said, screw it. So I just went to a private flight school, and it's been a lot easier and cheaper, actually. I've done a shoot at the, yeah, Bountiful's pretty. Utah itself is just a pretty state. I love Utah. There's nothing you can do to get me to move out of Utah unless property taxes keep increasing, because they are getting out of control here. I want to buy a lot of land in a state that doesn't have a lot of property tax, or none. Like there's states out there that still have zero property tax, and then just buy a lot of land and just live off of it and get away from civilization, I guess. Why are these not building? Let's get them built. Drag those very jagged and curved snowy mountains. I'll have to curve in ZBrush though. What are you saying, Sauce? I think I'm going to try those very jagged and curved snowy mountains. Oh, you're talking about the ones that I made, that I have put up for sale? Are those what you're talking about? But have you called in engine failure? Well, no, I haven't. Not because gliders don't have engines. Haha. Yeah, I've been in a glider though. Those are fun. For my work, we have a Slack channel called Pure Flight, and we have a lot of pilots in there, gliders, I guess. And what I want to do is I actually want to make a very small self-propelled glider, and one of those engine-powered gliders that just have like the big fan on the back. You can get about 500 miles on those. I wanted to use that and fly to work every day. I think that'd be fun. Does it become a process mostly done by hand or simple maps, or can you create detailed maps by which to procedurally texture after the all of that actually, Jeff? So in ZBrush, or I guess if you want to, you can use something like Substance, any of the Substance programs. But essentially, you're going to want to use a mixture of hand painting, hand drawing, as well as having masks. Masks is what you're going to probably be using the majority of the time, and then just adding additional details in afterward by hand, or procedurally. But usually procedurally, you can't be as selective with what you want, unless you're using another mask to do that. But yeah, you're actually gonna be doing all of that. So, but I think you're gonna be using maps a lot more than doing things by hand. Having maps to get you started is so much better than just doing it all by hand later. Use as many maps and masks as you can. All right, so that's with the lighting. So this is what we have in the end. So this is very good. As I said, it's a detailed base mesh. So what you're going to want to do is, if somebody were to buy this and use it for a landscape in their game or movie or whatever, they would get everything that is included in here except for the actual Gaea file itself. But you would import this into another program, and the only thing you have to, essentially what you want to do is make a detailed enough landscape that they don't have to do a lot of personal work on it. The only thing that they're going to want to do is tidy up these edges that you actually can't do anything about in Gaea anyways, because it's a 2D program. So you give them everything they need. So you give them the maps, you give them the masks, and you give them a really nice detailed base mesh, and then all they have to do is do minor amount of work on it afterwards. Yeah, I'm not sure why links are not posting for you guys. Like, I can post links. I believe I can post links. If you guys saw the one that I posted earlier to my website, my old website, I'm not sure why links aren't showing up in the chat. And there's nothing that I have set that won't allow you to see them. So, and nothing that I can put in to make them show up. So I'm not sure why they're not. Maybe having a Discord for this stuff that I can monitor for live chats might be a little bit easier, because then you guys can share stuff easier. But I'm thinking about setting up a Discord, because I'm a part of a lot of Discord channels, but I might do that in the future. Just take a dive into that workflow and learn from failing. Yeah, that's essentially how I learned. I just failed a lot. I mean, the light bulb was invented 1,000 times, but only one of them worked, right? Or made. Light bulb was made 1,000 times, but only one of them worked. So yeah, the light node here makes it look really nice, but we got the mixer here without the light node. You can see some of the additional details. The surfacer, that's what I wanted to show you. So we have thermal here, erosion, thermal, kind of breaks it up here. I guess I can break this down for you guys. So the base terrain, obviously I already broke down, but then the erosion here. So we have the breaker, which just breaks it all up, puts in these cracks everywhere. I've increased the duration a tad bit. Then the erosion, which filled that in just a tad bit, just a small amount, not too much. And then did some thermal. And all these heights here are just height selections for the lower portion of my landscape. And thermal erosion fills it in just a bit more with the talusing. And then, like I said, I used the debris size here, which gives it these little bumps in the talus, so it looks like rock fell down. And then the surface here is just a small, very minor amount, but you can kind of see it a little bit better if I zoom in. So here's with just regular thermal, here's with the surface, just gives it a tad bit more detail. And then I threw on just a little bit more right there to bring in the cracks, but that's with rough. I think both of them are rough, yeah. So they have rough and rocky, and I just used rough on both. So I used one that brought out the details a lot, and then I used a second one that just kind of brought out the details a little bit. Yeah, maybe it'll work without HTTP. And then the lower color here, again, I'm just doing selections based on height because I want to color this lower area more than the top area. So we do have our height selection here, where I don't have to break those down for you guys because you know what part I'm working with now. So I just did a texture. I did an auto level here because I'm actually using the thermal deposits right here. So it's masked from the thermal right here. It has that portal. That's being mapped to this auto level, and I used the auto level to bring the maps out a bit more because they were very small and not very strong. And then I used a surface texture, which is under here, the surf text. So this used to be your different sprinkling and peaks and stuff like that were under a different option, but they've been renamed. So the surface text just breaks up the mask selection a bit, and then I threw that into a sat map to get these little sprinkles going out throughout the entire landscape. And this one just applies a texture to it overall, and then we mix them together. And it's really hard to see because this surf text gives such a small amount, but hopefully you can see the before and after here. So that's before, after. Like I said, it's just a very small amount, but when you're texturing in Gaea, you want to use small details, otherwise it's going to look really clunky. And again, here I have the height just comes out from the last output of our erosion to soil. Soil can be used as like an ambient occlusion mask, by the way. Yeah, we still can't see it, sauce, it's not showing up. So if you use soil, you can use it as like an ambient occlusion mask, but I used it to select the edges here, the ridges, and then a surf mask, again using sliders, which is going to select more of the rocky parts, and a displace as a mask to break up the auto level, to break it up a bit. So you have your before, and then you have your after, and then a sat map to color it, and I just gave it this darker red color to a mixer. So now if you, and again, it's kind of harder to see, but you can kind of see a little bit there. You have like the before and then the after. You can see how they kind of show up small little specks, and they're kind of hard to see, but just small specks on the edges. But where this really comes out is at higher resolutions when you build this out. So the render that you saw for this actual model in the Facebook page, if you saw it, was at 4K. This is only at 2K, so it comes out at higher resolutions a lot better. We have the upper color, so we have our height, and that just selects the top parts and not the lower parts around this area. And then I just used a texture. Texture is just great to get a basic texture map. Protrusions just select the rocky parts. I've talked about this data map a lot in the past. It's one of my favorites. And then just two sat maps, and I mix them together. So this one will be the mixer output from the last mixer here to the top part, and then I just mixed in there. So if we look at the before, maybe, so the before, and then here's the after, where we start bringing in more color variation to the top parts. And then again, we just mix in another one to bring in the rock from the protrusion, to color the protrusion parts of the landscape. And then the worn rock is really important because right now it just looks really bland. So if we were to go back and just look at this, it just looks really bland. So what I did is I used a velocity data map, and this just simulates like rain wearing. So a lot of rock will have rainfall on it, the sun will heat it up, dry off the rain, but it'll leave like staining on the rocks a bit. So I used the velocity map to kind of simulate that. Surf text, I used the peaks here to bring in the wearing parts of the peaks, as you can see here. And then auto level again to kind of bring out the selections from the surf text. And then the mixer here, you can see how it brings out the rocks a bit more. So this is, especially at higher elevations, like this is meant to be seen in visual. You can see how it kind of just looks a little bit more detailed. It's not as bland as this. Also kind of darkens it up a bit. And then I just threw in a light node. So Snow Yin Wong. Oh, like this? Is that what you're talking about? To get something like this in Gaea, I'm looking at it, so I'm just thinking, you can probably get these nice peak pillar parts like this, but you're not going to be able to angle them like that very easily. Because if you do, it's just going to shift the entire part right here over, so it's going to look really funky. You'd probably want to make the base shape in Gaea and then add rock formations to it as separate objects. Yeah, and curve it in ZBrush. If you wanted to do that, you can curve it in ZBrush. I think it would just be easier to just make kind of like what they did with Skyrim. So if you go back and you look at Skyrim, all they really did is they made big. Here, I'll just kind of show you. So let's look at this for reference. So if you look at Skyrim mountains, all they did is they took a base noise mesh or noise layer that is really smooth, and then what they did is they just added additional 3D objects like these mountains to that mesh and then blended them together to make what they have for mountains. That's all they did. It's not, they didn't do like any kind of really delicate process where they did like vertex anything. All they did was they made that base mesh and then they blended in the rock objects together and called it good. It doesn't support height maps. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's odd. A creation engine that doesn't support a standard creating process. But yeah, it's super, that their process is stupid easy. So anybody can go and make Skyrim mountains relatively easy as long as you can model out the rock objects easily, I guess. These are really cool right here. I guess these are like textured mods. The engine in Bethesda games is super jank. I imagine it would be. Every game they make is just really super jank, at least until they are able to patch it. And that's probably more standard for game developers nowadays anyways, but it just seems like every game that they come out with there's just something that changes in every game because of their engine or something. It's just super jank. But yeah, making those should be relatively easy. In ZBrush, you can model those rocks out relatively quick. Probably. So I broke this one down for you guys to kind of see what I was doing, but that's the EAP. We don't want the EAP. So I broke this one down. Hopefully you guys learned something from that. Let's go ahead and see if we can... The only problem I can see having with those rock shapes in Gaea is they're going to be a 2D mesh, or a 2D, it's going to be a 2D map, so it's going to be, unless you were to go into a program and cut out the base, like cut the polygons out from the base of your rock. I don't know, the workflow would be kind of weird, but I think you could. So let's delete that. Yeah, that is proprietary software for sure. You got to learn whatever it is that they require you to learn. I don't know. I just think it's really funny that it doesn't support height maps. That actually tickles me. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So we can use probably a combination of things, but now that we have multifractal, that might be even better. I don't know. Let's find out. So we probably want something to start with just a basic rock option. So probably a gradient might be good. We can do a radial gradient. So now that's what we have. And let's do. Hold on a sec. There we go. Yeah, that could be something we can do for sure. I'm wanting to know if there's more of a way to do it without that though. Like I kind of want to make that super basic gradient thing that they had going on, and I'm thinking maybe Perlin might be the best option for that. Yeah, because I'm thinking we're gonna use Perlin. So what I want to do is make the base like what they have. So if we were to go back to, let's do this. Let's do Skyrim Mountains again. Skyrim Mountains. Oh, come on. Will it work now? No. Okay. Well, let's find one here. If we can find one that would look good, easy to kind of go through. Maybe this one, I guess. Yeah, so what I'm wanting to kind of do is say what we have right now with that gradient is this bulbous shape. What I want to add now is just the noise to it. That would be the rock. That's kind of like what I'm trying to do. Hopefully that makes sense. So we have this bulbous shape. And let's actually use a shaper on it, and let's increase it out just a tad bit more. Put in a Perlin noise, or actually in this case, we'll want to combine actually. So combine. And let's try multifractal again real quick. So we'll combine these two. Got a gradient there. We also want to mask in this. We retain the shape, I suppose, or maybe not. Maybe not. We'll come back to that. And let's increase this all the way, kind of like what we did before, and let's just go through what we have. Oops, right there. I think it's probably going to be max. Swapping the inputs isn't, maybe multifractals too much. Essentially, this is what I wanted to do. What we have going on right there. And I know there's a way to do it because I've done it in the past. I'm just having a hard time remembering exactly what I did. Perlin. It's gonna be, I need to mask out these edges. So maybe we can use maybe not. Now you got me thinking. Gradient to a combine to a Perlin to a combine. Well, let's at least get the rocky features that we want. Maybe we can do like a zero edge here. So we can do another gradient probably. Let's do another, no. We're gonna wanna do like a zero edge. If I can spell zero right. Zero borders. And we want to be about the same size as this gradient, which it actually kind of already is. We want square, and we want to increase the margins, I think. Got our gradient. there's our gradient. So that's about right with our gradient. It kind of comes out a little bit, so maybe we have too much here, but that's fine. And so let's play with our purlin here a bit. We want to increase or decrease the scale. I want more rocky looking stuff coming in. Kind of like that. And max that out. Yeah, almost. We're almost there. We just gotta play around with the purlin a bit more, I think. I think we need to do like, let's increase the octave so we get all the detail out, or detail in. Let's look at the combine here. That's almost getting there. We might have to play with the gradient at this point again. Hey, should our API support standardized features? The answer is always no. Yeah, it is. It's almost always no. When I was working with a company called Beehive Broadband out here in Utah, where I live, and they were trying to build their own in-house tools for customer management and troubleshooting and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, you know, I haven't really done a whole lot of customer support stuff, but I would imagine that most customer support platforms have, you know, a feature built into their program where a call comes in and you can see who's calling and you can answer from the program, so you don't have to lift up your phone and then put it up against your ear and hold it with your shoulder while you're trying to type. And also they probably give headsets, and the company was like, yeah, but we're building our own tools and we'll get you a headset, which they did, but you still had to like manually answer the phone by hitting the receive call button on the phone instead of just staying in your program and just clicking on answer or something. And it was funny, and they never did implement that while I was there. They probably have now, but they didn't while I was there. It would have been super easy to just like subscribe to a program that has all the features you need rather than hire somebody to build it for you, but they didn't. Maybe on this purlin we could use a shaper on it as well to make it more pointy. So like that maybe. Now we're getting somewhere. Like that. Good night, good morning. Yeah, Tad, thank you for joining. Again, this is just a test, but next live stream will definitely have more of a approach and topic, so it won't last as long, but I've been really enjoying talking with you guys. Thank you for joining, man, and all your questions. And sleep well. I'm probably going to call it good on the live stream here in a minute. I've been doing it for a couple hours now, so, and I'm kind of wanting to go get something to drink and probably play some Modern Warfare. But now you got me thinking on this Skyrim-esque mountain. So Rio, beautiful Rio. We got to bring out this gradient a bit more. Maybe bring in the shaper a bit. Oh, okay. Maybe not that much. I'm getting something on that. Oh, we need more than that. Just gotta walk it back, I suppose. Walk it back by 10. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there we go. So you got these rocky formations growing everywhere now. And then you can combine that with something else. Let's try. Let's do combine. We probably want to do just a regular displace maybe. But we want to do it with something else here. Yeah, Bob, that's cool. Yeah, you just skip to the end, see how this ends. It's not going to be much longer, so. But I appreciate you joining, as always, Bob. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for all you have provided in the chat as well. And good night to you, so you can get some good rest, man. Let's try this. I'm going to do this, but we're also going to put shaper on the multifractal, make it more spiky, maybe. We're also going to do a zero edge. Let's do a zero edge on this one. Zero borders. I keep calling it zero edge, but zero borders. This one we don't have to worry about changing the shape of too much, I think. But we're mostly going to want to change the multifractal itself. So maybe decrease the size. Fractal gain and combine. There we go. Yeah. So we got the rocky features coming in from the purlin, and we have also provided more detail in that. Interesting. I think that might be a good way to go about making those mountains from Skyrim, perhaps. Something like that. Let's see what happens if we do a shaper on this combine. Yeah, something like that. And they're not too spiky either, which is really nice. Let's increase the size a bit. Not too spiky up there either. So obviously what we're going to want to do is add like some erosion. I'm thinking in this case we're not going to want too much erosion. We're just going to want some very basic erosion to break it up. Or else we're going to lose a lot of that nice flowy stuff that we're going to be doing with our snow. But we want to break up the rocky formations, definitely. We did if we focused on probably the erosion strength in this case. And that's not bad, but we do have this weird artifact that goes around. So I don't want to have to work with that. That's not ideal in any way. So maybe we can work with the rock softness instead. So it gives me about the same as the other one, except we don't have that artifact. So I think that will work. And then at this point, we don't have to do much else except for maybe test other things out if we wanted. We can try shatter. Let's see what happens if we put shatter in there. Well, that shatters it too much. We could play with this, but I'm not going to. I think at this point, if we wanted, we could probably just throw in the snowfall, and see what the snowfall does real quick. Yeah. So you kind of got the rock and the snow coming in. I mean, that's just one way to do it, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time working on it, but you can definitely have the rocks coming in. They probably need to be a little bit more spiky down here. You can mix in a couple of these to bring it in, but kind of got something going on there. It's not too bad. Let's increase the snow line a bit so it only appears up here a bit. Yeah. And I guess if Jeff, if you're still around, I'll just kind of show you what you can do with this real quick. Let's do mask. Mask. We're going to attach it to, let's see. Oh, making them individually. They're like little mountains. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Oh, you love the tangents. Nice. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you definitely do that with the mountains. Again, I think one of the things you're going to run into that's going to be a problem is, again, you're going to have a 2D map of it, so you're going to have to import it into a different program like ZBrush to get the details you need on it. And you're also going to have to remove the other polygons that you don't need from the overall mesh, like this square. You're going to want to like remove around it so you only have the mountain object itself. But yeah, I mean, you can do it this way too. I think this way is really good. You have these really harsh rocks, and you got your snow falling here. And the nice thing about the snow is that you don't have to use it just for snow. You can use it for plant growth. You can color this green instead of white. But yeah, you can export it as a 3D mesh, but it will still keep... yeah, I got a new subscriber. Oh, nice. We'll have to go see who it is, because everybody who buys the subscription, I like to make a special object for them from the get-go that's only to them. So whoever did, I'll have to ask them who they are so I can get to them. Oh, it was you. Get with me on Gumroad and ask me what you want, and I will custom make you either a tutorial or a landscape or whatever it is you want. If you want, you don't have to, but if you want to, let me know. Want to completely X those details, you could use Photoshop for that, right? Yeah, you can make them black. You can just paint it out and make it black. But I think the best approach would be to just select the individual polygons in the object and just physically remove them from the object itself. But that might work. I actually haven't done that, but I mean, it is just a height map, so having anything black, there won't be anything there. So yeah, do it. I mean, I'm up for a good challenge. If it's a challenging thing that I've never done before, if it's like off of a reference that's really intricate and something that might take me a while, but I'll get it done and I'll send it to you, and then keep working on it if you don't like it. I really do appreciate you actually becoming a member, though. It's really important. It's really important to me because it gives me more incentive to make stuff for you guys and do stuff like this and give you guys content. And I'm hoping it's a good, reasonable price for you guys. But I'm always down for critiques on things that can change. So what I was talking about was the PWN Design all content. It's $5 a month. So you get all the content that I make, anything that I release on my store you get, as well as future content, and then past and present and future content, and then you keep getting, as long as you're a member and you stay subscribed, you get updates with everything that I post, everything that I'm doing. And then if you do it for $60 a year, so that's a little bit different. So you actually get like one-on-ones, live streams of like current projects that I'm working on that I'm not under an NDA for, so you can kind of see what's being worked on there, as well as like personalized tutorials and objects and maps that are made and stuff for you and things like that. So I mean, it all comes down to Gumroad. I have it on Gumroad. So if we go to Gumroad, this is what I have on Gumroad right now that I can actually upload, because I do have a limit, unfortunately. So some stuff that I have that you can get, I have to send to you, which I plan on doing with everybody. There's one guy that's been subscribed for a while. He's been up to date on everything and has gotten all my past stuff as well as the stuff I have on here and new stuff that will be coming out. But you can subscribe to the all content here, and in here I just kind of break down what there is. This is old. I haven't been able to update this, so I actually don't have the website, the pwndesign.com website anymore. I've decided to go with ArtStation over that, so that needs to be updated. But a lot of the stuff that I have in here, I've been able to sell in the past before I decided doing this. Well over $1,000 worth of content. So even in a year, you get your $60 worth in a year, even if you don't take advantage of like any of the other stuff that is exclusive to the $60 one. Oh, you're good, Jeff. Don't worry about it. But for $5 a month, you'll get all that stuff. And then if it's reasonable, that's cool. If it's not, just let me know. I'll try to rehash things. But currently what you get right now, at least on Gumroad, when you subscribe, that you have access to immediately, is all this. This one right here is the one I was talking about earlier, the flying high one. That one right there, I was able to sell for, I believe it was $550. And the guy just wanted it as a personal project to him, but he passed away, unfortunately. Probably one of the best mentors I've had in my entire life in the 3D industry. He was like, yeah, I'll buy it for you. Go ahead and sell it, whatever you want after that. But this was just like me getting you started with what you want to do. And I was like, that's awesome. Thank you. So I did. And then now I'm selling it. So yeah, it's been a couple years. I miss him every day, but I mean, he was a good guy. He taught me everything that I know now, other than the stuff that I've learned personally. But yeah, he was probably one of the best mentors I've had in my entire life. So he was a really good guy. Then I got my cloud VDBs in there. I don't have all of them uploaded. This one was like right on the cusp of the limit that I could have building out the size of the file. So 1.5 gigabytes, that's a large VDB. So that one might be a little bit strenuous on your system, but got some stuff in there like the clouds. The base canyon, which I just uploaded, and the snowy peaks, which I just uploaded. Those are your base terrains that you can download and do whatever you want with. I recommend just adding additional details in, but they are just your base terrains, and they're highly detailed where the detail should be. Oh, leukemia, dang, dude, yeah, don't. That's exactly what he died from, though. Actually, it wasn't leukemia. It was late stage colon cancer, I believe, is what he died from. And they didn't find it in time, and he died from it. He decided not to go through any kind of treatments, though. He was like, I'm already old, and I'm retired, and my grandkids are like getting old. They're not seeing me as much. Like, he had like this whole thing of that just made me super sad. So I don't want to really get into it, but yeah, I think it was late stage colon cancer that he died from. But I'm glad that you're alive, man. I have a friend that just went through treatments for cancer that I work with, and he was out of work for like 6 months. And he just kind of came in one day from work after he went to go get a physical, just a regular checkup, and he came into work all rushed and panicked, and called the manager in, and they talked, and then I said hi, and he was like, hey man, I can't talk right now, I gotta go. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he comes back. I hadn't seen him in months, like 6 months, maybe 7. And then he comes back. I'm like, what's going on, dude? And he just was pale. His hair was all shaved, and he had lost a lot of weight. And he was not a thin man to begin with, but he had lost a lot of weight. And he's like, oh, I had cancer. I'm like, damn, dude. You would have told me, I would have like brought you food. I would have went and visited you. And he's like, nah, it's all right, dude. I could not keep food down anyways. When I ate, I just threw up, and quite frankly, I was always in a bad mood because I wasn't sleeping and I was always sick. So it's probably better that you didn't come over. I'm like, all right, cool, just so we're good. Yeah, it totally. I would not. Anybody who goes through chemo, you have the utmost respect for me, because that's something that I would not want to deal with. I've always told my family that if I'm diagnosed with cancer, if I'm like in extreme pain already, just, I don't know. I don't know how I would react, but at the time I was saying, just put me down. But it depends. I have a kid now, so I kind of want to be alive for her. Oh, I bet you couldn't like walk well or anything. It makes you really weak. Like, I don't know how chemo totally affects the body, but I know it like really affects your muscles. Like, you can't hold things very well. Like, you can't write. Just your really finer motion skills are really hampered by it, is what I was told. So yeah, that's what we were talking about, is the Gumroad subscription. Let's go back to this real quick. So okay, so if this is the way, one way we can do it, let's try just using a mountain to make an individual rock object. I would think that you'd get better results not using Gaea for that, but I mean, we could always play around. And Shaper is going to be used heavily here. Oh, you got the 61. Oh, nice. Thank you, dude. So the way that works is nobody's actually subscribed to that yet. So let me go back to it real quick. So the yearly membership, you'll get the that are exclusive to the members that pay 60 a year. So live trainings. So anytime that you want to schedule time out with me to do like a one-on-one, you most definitely can. We'll have to schedule it out though. So if it's like last minute thing, I might not be able to do it because we got to schedule it out. I have work and family and stuff like that. But most definitely we can get on like a session, like a Zoom meeting or something free. Zoom's free for you to use. I have it on my computer. I can send you like a Zoom meeting and we can go about doing live trainings, one-on-ones, stuff like that. And then any project that I'm currently working on, I'll stream. And since you're the first one, I'm not actually currently working on any projects right now, but I'll open up other projects that I've done in the past and show you how I worked on them. If I can find one that I can do that the NDA is done and over with. A lot of the companies that I had done projects for in the past, they were like, yeah, I don't care what you do with any of this, as long as the product's released afterwards, we don't care. I'm like, okay, cool. So there's some of those. Yeah, a week's notice will work. That's fine. Even like, even if you just like ask me one day and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this, is there a time that we can get together? I can give you a time frame like within the week that we can do it. I can usually do it that day or next day. It just really depends on whether or not I'm working. Way too cheap for one-on-one after you subscribe. Nice. Yeah, that's the kind of critiques I wanna know about. I can grandfather you guys into it. Only after he spends. Yeah, exactly. I thought that's funny. That's smart. Cheap for one-on-ones. Yeah, I had a feeling that it probably would be, because I know a lot. I actually know a few people that do one-on-ones and they charge like $200 or $300 for one-on-ones, and that's just for one-on-one. That's not for like any like subscription or anything like that. And I totally get that. Like you don't want to undersell yourself. But I'm also I know what it's like to be that artist that wants to get going and learn things but can't afford anything. So that's kind of that was kind of part of the market I was aiming for. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to. So I actually don't know what a good price would be that would be within that market. I thought 60 a year is pretty decent because that's about what people pay for like online gaming services. Actually, I think it's probably 50 now, if I remember correctly. But $5 a month, if we're gonna do like a change in the yearly subscription, I might increase that. I might add maybe another tier here, where it's like grandfather you guys into it and then make one that's like maybe 200 and then yeah, 200, there you go. So at least 200 once you get some solid testimonials. Yeah, that would work. And if you guys want to throw in any testimonials or any comments or ratings on any of these, please do so. I mean, be honest. But I believe you can leave a comment on these or rate it. Or you can do it on ArtStation. Yeah, rate, comment, subscribe. That's what people always say on YouTube. So I'll go back and rethink that. Oh yeah. I had already thought about that. I was thinking like maybe 12 a year, so that's one a month. I thought that was pretty good. If there was like another tier that I make, it would be like maybe 2 a month, but that would be more. But for the time being, I mean, you guys are? Did both of you subscribe to the? I actually don't know how to look for that. I got 3 subscribers. So both of you did. Did both of you do the 60 a year one? So if you did, that's only 2 people. I actually don't mind like doing any amount of one-on-ones with just like 2 people who are subscribed. But if I get a lot of them, yeah, I'll limit it just so I can maintain some good, you know, decent amount of. Oh, you're the 5. Okay. So Jeff would be the only 60. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's 1 person, so it still flies. You're in savings mode. Yeah, a lot of people are. I don't blame you. It's okay. I mean, it's awesome enough that you even did the 5-1. So I really appreciate that quite a bit, and it just gives me a lot more incentive to continue doing this stuff, getting more involved with everybody and making more things. Just because a lot of this stuff costs a lot of money, and I've been paying for it a lot through my regular job. But if I can just do it, just use the money that I make from actually doing this stuff, that would be much better. So any amount is appreciated. But yeah, I was thinking of limiting it to just 12 a year, which that's 1 a month. So that's like a monthly meetup, which is what a lot of people do on like Patreon. They'll do like a monthly meetup where they'll have like a session where everybody talks and whatnot. But I figured that a good one-on-one once a month might work. If I increase that to like 2 or 3 a month, that would be a different tier that would cost a little more. So it's be really hard to kind of, some people might subscribe to this and some people might subscribe to that, and that just kind of makes it a little bit harder. So I think having 1 tier for one-on-ones and just increasing the price might be a good idea. Thanks for the feedback, though. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you guys find it as a good value. I mean, I have a lot of people who have actually talked to me about this fish hook range. 2 people did that I know of. They're the ones that gave me the $1 because they're like, you really shouldn't be selling this for free. And I'm like, I want to give some free stuff away just so people have stuff to start with. And they're like, this right here, I mean, I found stuff on Turbo Squid that isn't nearly as good as this, that has hundreds of cells that are like $200. And I'm like, I know that. I still want some stuff that people start with, though. Like, I do want to make money, but I'm not going to milk and dime people. I want to be fairly forgiving in that area. Yeah, yeah, specifically when landing. Actually, you want to know something very interesting is most airline or aircraft accidents happen during the takeoff, not the landing. And a lot of that has to do with not doing your proper weight and balances and understanding your air pressure and air densities. So when you're taking off, people will initially get enough speed to get the air under their wings to take off, but they can't maintain flight because they don't have enough power, because the air density is a little bit too thin. You need to have a lot of air, obviously, to combust. So they'll start taking off, but they can't maintain their altitude, and then they'll drop and crash, and that's when the majority of accidents happen on the landing strip, is at takeoff. And ATC would definitely love that. As in, love you not doing that. All right. Let's go back to see if we can make this rock. We do want to use a shaper here because I'm thinking we're going to do something like this. Maybe like that. It could be a rock. And I think shatter might actually be a good idea in this case. Let's look at what shatter might do. They would, and they should be most grateful for that. They should definitely learn how to make a beautiful landscape. Maybe not shatter. No, we want some kind of warping, so maybe we can just go straight to warp. Right there. Yeah, after After doing enough of the pre-flight checks, you would hope that they would get all that stuff right, narrowing the air pressure and the air density and the weight and balance and all that. But there are certain things in aviation that pilots tend to do over time, and they get pilots into trouble all the time. So what they are is, I'll pull them up for you guys so you can read them. I don't know if you guys are interested in it or not, but I think there's 6 of them, 6 pilot sins, I think they call it. They are the pilot character traits, I think. I can't remember exactly what they call them. Or personality traits. There's like macho pilot, hazardous attitudes of pilots. That's what they are. I use DuckDuckGo because I really don't like Google. I actually really dislike Google as a company for a lot of personal reasons, but it's another thing, like when we were talking about Patreon in the earlier part of the stream, I just don't like some of their ethics, I guess. They are way too censory. I don't like how they censor a lot of stuff. They censor a lot of search results as well. And I just don't like it. So I use DuckDuckGo. And I haven't actually been paying attention to a lot of what DuckDuckGo does. And they could be guilty of the same thing. I don't know. But I know Google is. So that's why. That's just more of a personal thing. I get a lot of flack for it from some people. But honestly, it's just mostly personal. And I don't like talking about it all that much. But that's part of the reason. So these are the hazardous attitudes of pilots, and this is what gets them into trouble most of the time. There's the anti-authority, so they don't like being told what to do or how to do it, because they've been flying for so long that they don't want to be told what to do, especially by ATC. You wouldn't believe how often pilots argue with ATC. They do it all the time. And you can. There's actually nothing that stops you from doing it. But in some cases, you really ought to not argue with ATC. Impulsivity, so you just kind of do something out of impulse rather than thinking things through. Invulnerability, you've been flying for so long that you don't do any risk assessment, or it even tells you right here, self-assessment or risk assessment. So you think you're invulnerable, like maybe you went flying one day and you had the flu and nothing bad happened, but you shouldn't be flying when you're sick, obviously. Or you flew in really rough weather environments and you think you can get through it because you did it that one time, but you really ought to not to do it. You should be flying in good weather and when you're not sick. So macho, that's the one I was trying to think of, was machismo or macho, but there's the macho character trait. The resignation, you just kind of give up when things go bad. Hot hand fallacy, yeah. So you got resignation, you just kind of give up when things go wrong. You don't really think things through or do any good assessment of your current situation. So there's that. Those are the 5 traits or attitudes of pilots, and that's what gets them into trouble all the time. So when you see like when people don't take care of like the weight and balance, they're just like, yeah, that person looks like they might be 210 pounds, but they don't actually weigh them. Some pilots do. I would say most of them don't, but I would say some of them do for sure. For example, we get like an hour that we get added to our total flight time when we're in training by doing simulation times, but it has to be a full motion simulator. So you get into a simulator that's flying like X-Plane or Flight Simulator, MS Flight Simulator, but it has to be a full motion one. So when you bank the plane, the simulator banks with you, kind of thing. You have to do that. It's only for an hour, but the person that was in there before me was this lady who has been flying for a while, trying to get her private pilot, and I could hear them because it's only like a little screen that blocks them from the outside, just enough to block the light so you can see what's going on. And you can hear the instructor say, "Oh no, the plane's going down. What just happened?" And that's all that he tells her. And these flight instructors can actually simulate common things that happen in a plane that go wrong. And so what he did is he just got onto his tablet and said, "Hey, flip this switch off or turn the throttle down and see what happens." And he just did a whole bunch of wonky things. So he extended the flaps, he decreased the throttle, and he turned off all the magnetos in the plane. Not the magnetos, sorry, the fuses in the plane. And he's like, I don't know what's happened, but your plane's losing altitude. And so she tries pitching up and she tries messing with the throttle and all that stuff. And she's like, I don't know. What did you do? And he was like, I don't know. What did I do? So on and so forth. So he just kind of screwed with her and she just broke down. She's like, I have no clue what happened. And she just starts kind of crying a little bit. And you can kind of hear her kind of whimpering a bit while it's happening. And he was like, okay, all right, I'll fix it. He's like, the only thing you did was try adjusting the throttle and your altitude by trying to pitch up. You did nothing else during your like emergency checklists, which is what we have. You have to go through that whole checklist, and that's what he was testing her on, and she didn't do any of it. And he was like, if we would have just kept going at that rate of descent, we would have landed, maybe, if you were able to land the plane somewhere safe, but we probably just would have died. And she just broke down, and she didn't want to do anything about it. She didn't know what to do. A resigned pilot sounds like an oxymoron. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I lament to inform that the pilot has just left the server. Yeah. So definitely there are people out there who are under stress who don't function well. And being a pilot, if you don't function well under stress, you probably shouldn't be a pilot. I'm just saying. There's a very specific workflow when you're flying planes, and you have to follow it step for step every time, or things will go bad, and you don't want things to go bad. And when things do go bad, even though you've covered your ass completely, your CYA, you have to know what to do to make sure that you can land the plane safely anyways. So, and to be honest, not a lot of time, definitely don't want to say that, don't want to put that out there, but sometimes you have done everything you possibly can do and you're just going down. But that is so rare. Very rare for that to happen. Yes, I totally agree with you, Sauce. My buddy, my game dev buddy, he had a full set of hair and he has thinned his hair out so much since being a game artist. Like, working for a game studio, he lost a lot of hair. Yeah, I mean, being a VFX artist is just like any other like mind game job. Like, in some cases, like technical support, right? You have to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it, right? And you can follow the same process, like, hey, I can use a mountain node here and I can create these mountains and it should come out looking like this after I do everything at the end of the day. But then it's like, well, then how do I do this and how do I do that? Like, how do I add additional details here? What program should I be using? Or, I mean, there's just so many different variations. In a lot of ways, yeah, I would say in a lot of ways, being a VFX artist in any capacity would make dealing with stress as a pilot a lot easier, especially under really explicit time crunches. I don't know what it would be like to work with a game company that releases a game yearly or annually, like a new game annually, and just always constantly pumping stuff out. And especially Wonder Woman's playing. If you catch that reference, kudos. Talking about the triangle. What is it called? What is that triangle called? That area where the Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, right there, Bermuda Triangle. I cannot imagine the teams who worked on Sonic when they were told, build new assets and render everything. Yeah, well, I'm glad they did, though. Okay, so I actually give a lot of praise to whoever decided that, yeah, we're going to go change Sonic's model. Like, no joke. Because not only did it make the fans of Sonic happy, but it actually, in return, fans went out and saw the movie because they respected the fans, that they made their money back. It probably was stressful saying, hey, we got to remodel this and re-render everything out. But, man, they made their money back because Sonic actually did really well in the box office compared to how much they spent on it, even with all the new renders they had to do. And it was awesome. So they did the right thing. Like, let's put this into perspective. So when the Solo Star Wars movie came out, people were not happy with the direction it was taking. Instead of just listening to the fans and saying, yeah, we'll change this to make the fans happy, right? Disney just decided to come out and just call everybody like some form of an ist or ism or a phobe or whatever. And it made fans mad. And so they didn't get their money's worth. It was actually the first Star Wars movie that did not bring in more money. The very first one. And all they had to do was just listen to the fans and say, hey, we want Solo to be more like how he was in the original Star Wars trilogy, where he was just this really awesome dude who like didn't live by the rules and whatnot, and had like a bounty on his back and stuff like that. But yeah, they didn't listen to any of the fans. They just attacked them instead, and Disney has produced some of the worst selling Star Wars movies in history. So they may have made money on them, but Solo was the first one that did not make money, and that was the very first one where the fans were extremely not pleased with how it turned out. And the complete opposite happened with Sonic. They listened to the fans, they changed them up, and the movie was fantastic. And granted, the movie was probably fantastic with the old Sonic model, but it made watching it better because now you don't have that really scary looking creature looking at you in the screen. So yeah, it exists. Only the line pockets. You were not wrong on that. Yeah, and I actually don't want to get started on Disney Star Wars either. I've been a huge Star Wars fan my entire life, and quite frankly, there are other videos out there where people kind of dissect everything, and they do a better job than I do. So, but yeah, I just wanted to use those two movies to compare, at least as a from a fan's point of view. Not only did Sonic turn out wonderful, even with the remodel, but its art direction and like when you look at Robotnik or Eggman, whatever. I always say Robotnik. If you look at Eggman at the end, when he's fighting Sonic, after Sonic gets up, and you see Sonic in his glasses. Let's see if I can find it. It's just a really cool scene. It's a really awesome shot. Sonic and Eggman final showdown. Yeah, and that you're right, Sauce. Nobody wanted a Solo movie, but I think if they would have did a good job with Solo, people still would have went to go see it. But since a lot of stuff happened with it that fans didn't like to begin with, as well as not wanting a Solo movie to begin with, they didn't make any money on it. But I think if they would have done something different, listened to the fans on what they needed to change, during like preview sessions and whatnot, they probably would have made their money back. Sonic and Eggman final fight movie. Maybe that'll work. It's like around this time right here. Let's see if we can find it. Right. This shot is so awesome. When I saw this, I didn't see this in theaters, but when my wife brought it home when it came out, I saw that. I was like, oh my god, that's so badass. I don't know, I just nerded out for a minute. I played Sonic my entire life. When I was like a kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old, I would watch like that really old Sonic cartoon that came out like the late 80s and 90s, or early 90s, I mean, not 80s, but early 90s. And I had a shirt. It was just Sonic, and it just said across the top, the Fast Hedgehog. That's all it said, was the Fast Hedgehog. But it had Sonic on it, and it had like one of those roundabouts, those round loops from the video game surrounded with coins, and it was just really cool. Yeah, man, exactly. The Mandalorian is good. I will give them that. I think out of all the Disney creations, The Mandalorian's probably the best thing that's ever happened from a Disney Star Wars perspective. And even I still have some reserves with the Mandalorian, especially after the first season, after season 3 or episode 3. I think up to episode 3, it's really great. I think it really falls apart for episode 4, but that's as far as I've gotten so far. I actually haven't been able to watch a lot of it. Oh, good. That's good. I know I had kind of like a rocky start. Specifically like at episode 4, what got really rough for me. I did just a lot of stuff in there that I was like, but episode 1, 2, and 3 I thought were pretty good. A little bit weird, and I still, like I said, I had my reserves, but yeah, I haven't been able to finish it yet. But I thought that scene right there, like the lighting's just so awesome. I like how they have like the sonic reflection as goggles, and it just played out so well. It was just so badass. I got really excited for that. What is that? Taika Waititi? Is that how you say it? What Waititi? I don't know how to say it. Yeah, I think Deborah Cho, considering she did the first 3, I believe. YTT. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you what any director is in any movie or film except for like Steven Spielberg. So I don't know who directs anything. And for a long time, I wouldn't be able to tell you who directed when, like, everybody knows who George Lucas is now, but even when I was growing up watching Star Wars, loving the films, I appreciate the credits more now as somebody who actually works on a project and wants to get credit, but when I was a kid, I never watched the credits. So I wouldn't be able to tell you who George Lucas was, even when episodes 4, 5, and 6 came out. I was just like, I think I was like maybe 10 or 11, maybe a little bit in that range, like anywhere from 10 to 13 years old or whatever. I couldn't tell you who George Lucas was. And I did like Thor Ragnarok. I didn't watch Jojo Rabbit. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's awesome. I know who Ahsoka is. I mean, at least there's that. I actually really like Ahsoka's character, especially if you watch the Clone Wars, the new 3D animated ones. She's a really cool character. I really like Ahsoka. I like how she has a really good character development too. So she starts, like, sometimes she listens to Anakin on what she ought to be doing, but sometimes she like doesn't listen to him and gets herself into trouble, or she uses her best gut judgment based on the Force and actually does something that she should be doing. Like, she just is a really cool character. I like Ahsoka a lot. So that gets me excited if she's showing up in season 2. I haven't finished the first season, so I'll have to get caught up before that comes out. Oh, nice. Jojo Rabbit's a German boy with imaginary friend named Adolf Hitler. that's funny. Yeah, she's what Anakin should have been exactly. But Anakin was a cocky bastard and didn't want to listen to anybody or anything and destroyed himself. I'm gonna have to go look up Jojo Rabbit. I do like witty comedy. I like spins on stuff like that. I think it's hilarious. Yep, cocky and whiny. Just kind of like Luke. Luke was whiny. Wasn't necessarily cocky, but he was whiny. But he still had an issue not listening to his mentors. So like Obi-Wan Kenobi, he listened to a little bit. Sometimes he, had questions. Definitely didn't listen to Yoda, and he just takes off from Dagobah and goes and gets his arm sliced off and almost killed, But definitely, Luke was definitely a lot like his father that way as well. Wasn't as cocky, but definitely whiny, especially in the first episode. Okay, and I've said 4, 5, and 6. What I meant was 1, 2, and 3, just because of the stupid time differences. But episodes 1, 2, and 3. So the prequels, and then you have 4, 5, and 6, and then you have the sequels. Some power converters. Yeah, exactly. Let me see if I have like the audio to my desktop on here, because then I want to show you guys a video has been around forever, but I love it. Maybe it'll play. I didn't even care to take care of her newborn. Yeah, I know. It's her death made no sense. Yeah, I don't think he was trying either. Let's do a Star Wars rap. It's not a rap battle. It's an older video that came out a long time ago. Oh, I didn't want to. I don't think I muted it. Did I mute it? Yeah, I don't. Oh, right there. I did mute it. Oops. Yeah, I don't want it muted. I want to. Hopefully, it'll play if I can find it. Star Wars gangster rap. No, I don't. Maybe this is it. 10 years ago. Yeah, this gotta be it. Is it playing for you guys?
It's not the east or the west side. No, it's not. It's not the north or the south side. No, it's not. It's the dark side. You are correct. Get from the empire to all you beta haters out there. Blow your planet up.
What does life mean, my master?
It's a disaster. Skywalker we're after.
What if he can be turned to the dark side?
Yes, he'd be a powerful ally. Another dark Jedi.
I hope you guys
He
can
will
hear
join
it.
us or die. We got Death Star. 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 And you know that we got it. Death Star. And you know that we got it.
Luke, get your ass over here right
Yeah,
now.
it was.
Quit monkeying around that damn land
So
spear.
different.
Where them two droids I asked you to clean, boy? You clean your room?
I'm glowing. I know I'm on probation. I clean the droids. Can I go to the Hashi station? I gotta lay away on the power converter. But now you're treating me like a scruffy nerf herder.
Use the force and run. Run to dig a ball.
There's that.
Run to dig a ball. Use the force and run. Run to dig a ball. Run to dig a ball.
It's so funny. Just so whiny. There's another one. If you want another throwback real quick, I kind of want to finish working on... I told Bob that this wasn't going to take much longer, so sorry, Bob. I kind of want to work on this a little bit more, but I think I'll save that for another time. But I just want to show you guys one more video because I need to get... My kid fell asleep, and I need to get her pajamas on still and put her in bed. But there's one more I want to show you. It's End of the World. This one is so funny.
Okay, so here's the Earth,
Bob.
chilling. Damn, that is a sweet Earth, you might say. Wrong! Alright, ruling out the ice caps melting, meteors becoming crashed into us, the ozone layer leaving, and the sun exploding, we're definitely going to blow ourselves up. Okay, so basically we've got